We do a little fam. Our season 3 mint is live, and we need your support more than ever to keep the IRL podcast vibes going. We have a $5 based edition minting through Zora's platform using the base chain. Each $5 based edition allows you to burn one for an art piece based off the conversations we've had with our guests. 12 based editions are needed to collect a full set of art at the end of the season. There's also 15 premium editions at one each. Each premium NFT owner is invited to one of our We Do a Little dinners. The next dinner will be during Art Basel Miami in December 2023, and we'll have dinners at NFT LA and NFT NYC in early 2024. Each premium edition is an invite to one dinner of your choosing, whatever works best. Premium owners also receive all 12 art claims via airdrops and all future NFTs. Links to mint both the based and premium NFTs, as well as an article explaining all of our plans for Season 3, are in the show notes below. And without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. In our 7th episode of Season 3, we're joined by Blockhead, or OU Blockhead on Twitter. Blockhead is a professional screenwriter and writer. He's also a former professional poker player and actively still involved in the blackjack scene. Most importantly, he's one of my best and oldest friends in the crypto space. We dive into Blockhead's childhood and how it inspires his writing, various gambling stories and bad beats, dealing with your best friend's suicide, and finding the light at the end of the tunnel. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions, and a Deeze and guests may own NFTs discussed.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm Deeze.
GM, we're back again with another episode of We Do a Little. This is a very special episode with a dear friend of mine. He's known on Twitter as OU Blockhead.
Yeah.
And we know him as Blockhead.
Quiet. Get a little bit.
Oh, there we go.
So, without further ado, I think this is your first podcast.
It's my first podcast ever.
So thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you, Deeze and Andy.
You're one of the first friends I made in the space. I followed you on Twitter, and I thought your sense of humor was really funny. And I think I just followed and reply guide you long enough till we got in the same Discord, and we got to know each other a little better.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's right.
I think that's pretty accurate.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
My memory's really bad.
So, I mean, it's fun to get to talk to you. Fun to get your behind-the-scenes experience here that you don't share with a lot of people.
Yes.
You're kind of known for these depressing, punchy, witty tweets that often have a hint of morbid degeneracy, maybe laced with some violence and other things. And you can never tell if it's something you've lived or it's something that you've made up. And it always feels like it is something you've lived.
It's usually something.
Or is in some way inspired from some event in your life. So I want to start out like, where did you grow up and how has this impacted how you look at the world?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, let's see. I grew up in Vegas. It says Vegas on my bio. I don't live in Vegas anymore, but I'm always going to be from Vegas. I grew up in Vegas. I'm a little bit older. I'm like a boomer. I'm like mid 30s. So it was like a different time in Vegas. It was like family oriented. The MGM had a theme park. The Stratosphere had like a bunch of rides. There was, like the Adventure Dome was the dopest place to be every weekend. Yeah, but I'm completely from Vegas, which not a lot of people make it out. Everyone like from Vegas is generally still in Vegas.
Do you know anybody else that you were friends with in Vegas who's made it out like you, or are they all just trapped in the perpetual motion?
I don't want to say trapped because it is like, it's a choice. It's a bubble in the desert. So like you can be happy there for sure, but it's just limiting in my opinion. People who made it out, like, let's see, our valedictorian became a accountant actuary. He became an actuary in Des Moines. I wrote his speech
in Des Moines
to graduate. And yeah, in
like
Des Moines,
Iowa.
That's making it out, bro. It's going to Des Moines, being an actuary in Des Moines, and I wrote his fucking valedictorian speech. The number 2 kid is my homie, and he ended up going to USC and didn't do so great with his degree, and he moved back to Vegas and does like tech stuff. And like one girl went to NYU and is just like very sort of in like the weird, I'm not trying to like already pop off, but like in the weird, like there's a museum and it's like here's a box of air and it's like it's just like, okay man, that's not real, okay, whatever.
It's contemporary art.
She went to NYU, like hyper contemporary new school of art, like all right, sure.
Post new modern, posternism.
No. Okay,
yeah, it's just like a Dyson vacuum in the middle of the room, and
like
think it's just like
it's a
the janitor left it, but it's
gallery,
actually...
and they're like, this is the exhibit.
Don't get me. And like I feel like I can pop up. I went to like a really fancy film school, and like I did really well there. Like fortunately, they got like, so I can pop off a little bit, and like I feel, if I'm an artist and I can say, I'm like, guys, this is not real. It's not real. Some stuff is. It's hard to tell the difference, but yeah. But not a lot of people.
Like at what age did you realize like your life was different than like most people?
Bro, it took going to law school.
Wow. So it wasn't like growing up.
No. So I met Ferocious actually, Fio, and like already that's like for a lot, like my homies are like, whoa, you knew Fio or Fio, and like you would assume like we don't know each other at all, like we don't like have the same vibe, and we didn't really. And I expected, like, oh, this, whatever. Like me and Deeze went to go paint.
Yeah, a little painting a couple days ago.
Yeah. And so I go to meet him, and then we're talking. He's also from Vegas, and so we went to the same fucking high school, and that like blew my mind. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot the question about it.
So the question was like, when did you first realize?
And so different? Yeah, we started talking about that.
So you're in law
when you're
school.
in Vegas, it's completely normal to like, okay, the theaters, like the movie theaters, where you go see concerts, where you're dropped off as a kid while your parents go fucking gamble, is in the casino. And so that's completely normal. Is you're in the casino. It's just, I mean, a line I use, I think in one of my books, is anthropologists will say it is, Vegas casinos are churches because they're the biggest buildings and they're in the center of the city, and they'll be right. And it's sort of like that. You don't realize it's different if you've never left, really. Like, you don't really think
you don't know that like kids in other towns aren't being dropped off at the
casino.
At Kids Quest. No clue. Until like law school, I got out like 23, went to UNLV, took the 5-year plan, played poker most of the time, with Mike Neal, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, and I left at 23 to go to law school. And
you went to law school in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, University of Illinois. I don't mind like I'm not like full docs, but like like telling facts about myself. I'll be I have like some success in like my doc's life or whatever, so I figured the two lives will be married. I'm like a writer in both of them, so whatever.
So you're in law school, you're in Illinois.
I'm in law school, I'm in Illinois. And
thinking
then
about Vegas?
No, I mean, so the first year was like making it out. I knew I wasn't cut out to be a poker player. I didn't really know like why and how I would play in the whole trajectory yet, but I knew like poker I just wasn't good enough.
How did you get into poker? I guess that's an important question.
Okay. I feel like that's got to be like a rite of passage in Vegas, right?
Like, were you just playing poker at school? Like, do they teach that like home ec?
We don't teach it, but we were playing like kind of like the meme in the back of like English class for like quarters and dollars, and like Miss Jankowski would like yell at us, but it would be funny or whatever. And then my homie, Mike Neal, we met. He's like a big, the story I wrote about him in my first book, the book is named for like Seed Open. He was my best friend. We met like 10th grade, like geography or whatever, world history. And yeah, we started playing online poker together for like, 5 cents, 10 cents. Dreams of playing like 1-2, like if you had a 10K bankroll and you could play like 2-5, you're set. That's all you needed. I don't know what more you need in life.
Just 10K bankroll.
That's it. $10,000 to play 2-5 was literally like the dream at the time. And that was like, we built to that dream from like $200 shots at a time in like high school. I mean, playing absolute poker for like 5 cent, 10 cent. I remember like the line was he heard I played 5-10 and he thought like $5, $10. No, it was 5 cent, 10 cent like him. And so we were like, playing just like in the trenches. Poker is sexy. It's also, there's not many ways of like social mobility for someone from Vegas who like, I'm not very athletic. Like my dad was a degenerate gambler. So this definitely like probably helped. My dad was like he was a nuclear engineer. And so he was a really smart dude, but he loved blackjack. And so I'm actually writing, I know I'm jumping around a bunch right now. I'm writing a book about, it's called What's It Like Being from Vegas? What's it like growing up in Vegas? That's actually what it's called. And I lost my train of thought.
So your dad's a
degenerate
blackjack
gambler.
player.
Oh yeah, that's right. My dad's a degenerate gambler. That's right. He essentially moved us to Vegas because it was where the blackjack tables were. And so yeah, like the nuclear like test site was there.
Do you remember moving to Vegas as a kid? Like, do you remember life
like
before?
flashes of memories? Like we lived in like I think New Mexico for like a little bit. I was like 4 or 5 when I moved there, so it was like super early. And then it was just always life in Vegas, and that weirdness. Like I think the first car had no AC, so it was like super hot. Yeah, it's just its own thing. Everyone, like I was saying to Phil, if you survive Vegas, like it's surviving the desert. It's what's it, Talia al Ghul in the pit in the Batman movie, like you're just climbing out, and not a lot of people make it out. It not induces, but promotes sort of like fast living. You're getting drunk young, you're doing drugs young, whatever, and yeah, that's a lot of places. You're bored in like the Midwest and stuff, but I mean, Vegas is built on sin. Like it's sort of, there's no, like this building is probably, I think we were talking earlier, older than any building in Vegas. Like the entire city, like this random, like made in like 1920s or whatever. Oh yeah, older than any building in Vegas.
It feels like hollow sometimes when you're there and you're just like, it's the strip and then there's the mountains.
Yeah, everything. It's a coal mining town. Everything is geared toward the strip and the hospitality industry. And there's some, you can argue, like Tony Hsieh tried to revitalize downtown, and like they're trying to do that, but that's never going to happen. Nothing grows roots in the desert, man. And like, yeah, there's like sports teams now. It's kind of weird because
you didn't have like the Raiders growing up.
No, we didn't have the Golden Knights growing up.
You didn't have like T-Mobile Arena.
No.
You didn't have like
It's
UFC fights.
Bro,
there.
I was talking, I think, yeah, with Phil too. We were watching 51's games. That was like the
51?
The AAA team for the Jays, I think. Watching 51, the Area 51s. They're just like where my dad worked, the test site. At like Cashman Field, this really like super like ghetto place, like downtownish, right off like.
Did your dad ever tell you any like weird stories about the testing shit?
No. He did like.
He's tight-lipped about that.
I mean, yeah, pretty tight-lipped. He did some with like the box that like made sure if you blew up, it blew up inwards or something, so it didn't like fucking blow up everyone. I don't know. It was 2 hours each way he drove, and like
every day.
I think so. Or like he drove some of it and like they like carpool, and like it was super like, like the government stuff.
It's like out in bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere. What it is, there's a fence, and then is all the warning signs like you'll get shot if you continue here, and then 15 feet later there's the guard fence, and anything that moves between there is dead. Jackrabbits, where it's like automatic guns on turrets type shit, bro. It's wild. But he never really told me stuff about that.
Yeah.
No. And yeah.
And then growing up, like your mom is a teacher.
Okay, well, my mom.
Your mom has inspired a lot of various experiences in your life.
Yeah. So my first like NFTs was like 2018 or something. I minted 2 of my mother's texts. My mother, God bless her, man. She is like, I just wrote this line about like in my set. I'm like building right now.
To my mom's text.
She drew a lot of inspiration from like Eminem's mom, and like just, I mean, real talk. This is a puzzle piece. This will sum it up. We would be flying down Flamingo. She'd be taking me to middle school. I'm 12 years old. She's singing along to Dad's Gone Crazy, making me sing the lyrics of Haley Jane. Like, okay, this is normal. And like popping her fucking pills that she calls her head meds. And I'm like, and again, this is the same as living from Vegas. I'm like, this is normal. This is completely normal. Everyone's mom does this. Everyone's mom has like crazy mood swings like this. Like, God forbid, God bless anyone's soul who cut her off, man. Like a fate worse than death. She'd be cussing them. I'm gonna fucking kill you, son of a bitch. I got my son in the car. I don't care. He's gonna be a witness. And just like peel off, bro. Pull up, park, because she's a teacher. And then we're going to school. And that's just how it was.
She drove you to school every day.
Not every day, no. But that's just like, she started teaching when I was like 10, 11, 12. But she was like subbing. Right as I was like leaving elementary school, she would like sub a little bit.
So was she ever teaching at the school that you were at?
Yeah, she would sub like a couple times.
And then
like
would kids like ever?
Oh yeah, but she was like the fun teacher, which is cool. Except like, I mean, look, there's a lot of ways to go into this conversation.
Because she was fun as a teacher, but not fun as a parent.
Well, I mean, she was fun as a parent, but not like, I mean, I don't know. it's complicated.
Like some examples of her being fun as a parent that I think of are like before there was Chat GPT, there was like Blockhead GPT, and it was like, hey son, like I'm making an online dating profile, can you help me write the description?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, like that's normal stuff to me. That's again, we're like, yeah, it helps to get context. We're like, oh, yeah,
like I don't feel like that was a normal thing where like your mom is like, can you help me
help me get men? Yes, with this fucking Tinder profile, essentially, it's like archaic Tinder profile.
It's like Plenty of Fish or whatever,
Yeah.
Match.com.
Oh yeah, Plenty of Fish, Match.com, all those things.
And like that was normal.
Oh, that was completely normal.
And then she'd go to school the next
I
day.
mean, the line that I always use, and like, you know, I'm quick to use, is like, she would give me, I probably can't say this, she would give me some of her meds to sell to my classmates at like 7th grade. Not like to sell like explicitly, like, but like, oh, I'd have them, and she'd be like, oh, you want some? Like, she was free with the meds. And if I had some and I wanted to, like, okay, well, I can do whatever I want with it, and then she'd be like, oh, we sold that, so, you know, what, are you gonna leave me empty-handed? And so like cutting in my mother on some of those profits is how I was raised. And that's normal to me.
That's Vegas.
That's Vegas.
That was just like,
that's Vegas.
You do what you gotta do.
Yes.
And
exactly.
like, was there a point where
we raised each other as well? Like, there's a lot of ways to look at it. We're like, oh, that's exploitative or something.
Like, where was
like,
your dad during all this?
Or he was gambling, bro. He was fucking gambling or at work building nuclear bombs. So like, you know, which one is more consuming? Like,
so he
and also not giving us any money, right? Or like, oh, making it a thing for like, oh, here's, you know, the fucking child or the court mandated child support, you know, you're welcome. And so like something like that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so we were doing what we had to. And yeah, we squatted. Let's see, we lived in an apartment for a while. Then she found her mob boss, my stepdad, for a year. This dude was in the mafia, and like, I've heard it all. Like, I've been around, clearly, like, I'm from Vegas, I've been around, I've heard
Like,
a
how
lot of
did you
shit.
know? Like, what?
A lot of details. He was, I mean, this is where it gets like, yo, so he was in the Knights of Columbus, which is like a weird kind of like fraternal brotherhood type thing that like has a lot of like
history.
Yeah, it I don't even know how to really explain them.
Exactly. He was in Knights of Columbus,
but like they have buildings and they go inside them and they get together and then they get out.
That's it. They're just hanging out. We're just hanging out, bro. And
They're
then
just hanging out.
He grew up. He was a Polish guy. He was like an older Polish guy, and he grew up like in New Jersey and
Jersey's full of Knights of Columbus.
Yeah, and worked with his fucking hands. And he said, yeah, a lot of the guys in my neighborhood were like that, and he was like an enforcer and this and that. And bro, like this guy. I've just seen things. He pulled up in like the fucking whatever, like 500 series BMW, and like the first night I took my mom out, peeled off like $100 for me. Here you go, kid. And like, yeah, he wasn't, you know, actually like a boss, but he like flexed like it, like a muscle guy would. Like, it was all checked out.
And how did your mom find him? You remember?
Internet. Of course, yeah. This guy's like, oh, I can just go on the website and just fucking click. Of course, yeah, easy peasy.
Shoot fish in a barrel.
Exactly. And then of course that ended with they both joked around. She bought him, a registered felon, a firearm, and then accused him of maybe doing something, and then my comics that I like as a kid was like, oh, you know, his fucking $100 and like selling candy to my classmates. Oh, I got a fucking whatever, a Flexerol, sell that for $10. That money would go to comic books where I would like snipe them on eBay. Amazing Spider-Man 121, The Death of Gwen Stacy 122, The Death of Green Goblin, and I would fucking like, oh, buy it for $100. It'd be worth $1,100 because the first Tobey Maguire movie was about to come out because I'm old as fuck. And
you were thinking about that at that age, like the Tobey Maguire movie.
Because my mom wanted her part of her 10, bro. I need to figure it out. We need to grind. What do you mean?
That's why, you're like looking at the upcoming movies.
As we like developing, you'll be like, oh, like crazy shit happened in my life, and I'm just like, this is normal because this is what like needed to happen, and it's
There's
sort of
no
weird.
point where I was like, man, like Spider-Man 2's coming out. Like, I should get the comic book.
Oh yeah. I'm 11. I'm like, well. You know, like I'm buying comics and I'm like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. It's old as shit. Like, yeah, sure, it checks out. And then all those comics went missing out during like the sketchiness of like, you know, the year, the honeymoon period's over. He was a good guy. He never like, I don't know, never laid a hand on anyone in front of me or nothing.
Comics
like,
were missing?
Comics were missing, but like, I mean, who, you know.
Do you think it was mom?
Of course. But like, you know, she had her reasons. Like, there's no, you know,
She
I
took the
bought her
money
a
from the
fridge.
piggy bank and then went and played slots.
Exactly,
straight
exactly. That's why, like, hey, I get it. But I mean, we didn't talk for like 7 years, and then this past year we talked. I like reconnected. A bunch of people were like, yeah, why not? I'm finally like I'm very fortunate to like have had a couple like good opportunities and like good friends, present company included, and was able, yeah, to like talk to her, and like, I'm in a place where I'm like, oh, I will like support myself more, and like et cetera, et cetera. And so yeah, I went to Houston, see her, reconnect. I bought her a fridge. She was moving, like, like I'm able to like, send her money a little bit. And
How does that feel compared
good.
to
Oh, it's great. It's
like
great.
the last, like, I don't know, 7 years where you weren't talking to her?
Did you guys have a falling out?
No,
To not talk for
we
7
just
years,
didn't
or
see,
just
no, we
grew
didn't
up-
talk.
grew
I
apart?
guess I misspoke. Sorry. I didn't see her for 7 years. We talked maybe once every like couple of months. She's
Like on the phone or like text messages?
text messages.
So like never like a voice call.
Look, we raised each other really, like I kind of raised her, I guess. I don't know. She had her, like trauma. It couldn't have been easy being like herself as like a little kid or whatever, and like et cetera, et cetera. But it's enough that I can, as I like describe it, I can just write about my experiences and my perspective, and people will mint the text message from her for like 2 weeks. Yeah. And it's like that, profound or whatever of a message or whatever that, yeah, I can just do that. And maybe I'm lucky, maybe I'm not.
Cut her in. Like, it's like similar to the pills.
Is she getting
That's
royalties?
the fridge. That's a fridge. That's the fridge, bro. That's the kickback. But yeah.
So how do you think when you went to like Illinois and you had a 5-year plan, like how did it go from
So the law school. Sure.
you were going to
The classic
try
story.
to get out the right way?
Yes, is like Mike McD and Rounders, and like, oh, you go to law school because it's like the logic, and logic games for the LSAT was the easiest part for me because it's very similar to poker. Steve needs to sit next to Mary. Mary's wearing red. She needs to sit across from someone, in blue. Okay, so you can just like solve in poker. The hardest part of law school is getting in, is what I like to say. I was able to use my half Mexican, half Iranianness and like be a URM, underrepresented minority. With my like 163 or whatever on the LSAT, oh, I'm Gucci, bro. I got money to go to Illinois. Like, all right, let's get out. A theme that pops up is like, so I said in poker, like I wasn't good enough. Yeah. And it's true. Like, okay, I can beat like 2-5, consistently. Congrats. I can make $25 an hour and like not save and like not have any like 401k or retirement and
No
just
insurance.
like no nothing. And
There's
it's
no,
just
like,
a miserable
HFA.
fucking existence. And there's a lot of dudes, like a lot of mutuals, a lot of friends who like live that existence, and it's like it's rough. And so in law, it's the same thing. I'm like, I'm pretty good at like, arguing or whatever and like the logic behind it and finding like, exclusions to arguments or whatever, but I'm not the best. There's a homie Kyle Kantarek in like law school who would just like, scroll the fucking law book once and like know how to apply all the cases. I'll give you an example. I was leaving towards class 1L, like our first year, and there's this kid, Brad West, and Brad West, God bless him, he would fit into CT perfectly. And
he might be a not on CT. We don't know.
He might be a not on CT. He was like, he's killing it somewhere in Chicago, and he was like, oh, well, I don't know, on the towards exam I said it was this and this and this, and I'm driving him home in the rain. I'm like, Brad, I said it could have been this, it could have been this, da da da. He ended up calling the class, getting like a super A. I got a C, which in law school is an F, because it's graded on a curve. No one gets actual Fs because it's fucking hoity-toity law school. But yeah, I got the worst grade. He got the best grade. I couldn't tell you why. You have to like apply the laws, like a set of facts. I don't know. I had no idea what I'm doing.
You knew right then and there that it was just like...
It was clear that like, okay, I could be like a shitty attorney in Chicago in some fucking cubicle making like $100K a year.
You're a public
to, like,
defender.
Sure.
I wouldn't wish that fate on anyone.
Yeah, plus like,
you
I don't...
you have to go to law school, do all that, and then you're just like...
Am I good enough to be a public defender to like... I don't know, to fight the fight? I'm not sure.
No.
No, probably not. But what happened, and like here's where
theme where you like notice that like
I'm not good enough.
I'm not trying this thing.
I'm good but not great.
Yeah.
And like I am, raised by a narcissist, so a narcissist myself. I'm used to like, okay, I can figure it out. I can figure out a way to like get myself out of the hole, whatever. So at this, here's like a double clutch in the story. My best friend Mike Neal, who we were playing poker together, playing like 5 cent, 10 cent. Black Friday happened. DOJ shuts down all the poker sites. We're commuting to the Bellagio, the MGM, playing fucking $1, $2, like living that life, whether it's, good or bad or whatever. Now you can look upon it with nostalgia and, like smile wistfully, but at the time it was fucking shitty. At the time, bro, I would have. At the time, bro, I would have. I can't say that. At the time, I would have I don't know, abducted a tourist for $1,000 for I don't know,
anything.
What do you want
whatever
to say?
All you needed to do is get the $10,000.
Bro, that's why I'm you hear about oh, these scammers did this for $1 million. I'm like, no shit, he did. If he even halfway if he is halfway from the desert, bro, forget it. Of course you would. I would too.
You're all I need to do is flip 2 shitty cars to get the payroll.
Yeah, exactly. And so
grinding fucking $1.
So he ended up on the other side of the table. He would deal for a little bit. This is after working the Vegas kiosks and here's where it ties into.
What's a Vegas kiosk?
So at Miracle Mile in the Planet Hollywood, just a kiosk that sells instant clothes steamers. Oh, sir, you just came here. You need. Yeah, you need your fucking your
shirt's
luggage.
wrinkled. You look like shit, dude.
Yeah, your shirt's wrinkled. You need to steam it, whatever. Blah blah.
Yeah,
I never worked at one.
Fake earrings.
Yes, yeah, all kinds of shit.
Okay.
He worked at that for a little bit. Delivered for Jersey Mike's for a little bit. All kinds of shit. Just grinding shitty jobs.
Yeah.
Wanted to be an actor. Was quite the actor. I saw him in I forget. I saw him in some play, and he was pretty good. But he moved out to LA to pursue acting and just wasn't making it happen. Lost his phone, just the worst circumstance of events. Didn't believe. Look, at the end of the day, what he did was wrong. Ended up killing himself on my birthday. And so that obviously, sucked.
You think he did it on purpose on your birthday?
No, I don't think so. But is that, any way you look at it, there's, he didn't mean for it, but it's also not good. Well, he didn't remember my fucking birthday. He didn't,
he didn't text you happy birthday.
No, of course not. And so when I was at dinner, I remember I was in the store. I was at dinner, get a text saying oh, did you see Facebook? My friend show me the walls, oh, rip Mike, and I'm oh, okay. And so I have to at dinner pretend put on the poker face with my girlfriend because I want to fucking completely ruin her night. What can you do? What can she do at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez. So that happened, and that helped me see.
How old were you when that happened? What
24, 23? Oh yeah, 23. And so that happened, and it helped me see that I don't want to sort of waste my time. I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I don't want to just grind out in that cubicle some 100K to review documents until I'm 66 or whatever. And so I had submitted for a competition some fucking 10-page little write up about, okay, a guy needs to pay back a loan. It's a competition here's a prompt, a character, and whatever, a setting, go write it. I didn't end up winning. I didn't even place whatever, but it was I hit up Mike Neal saying oh, yo, I don't know if the guy his parents come down to his room and do they step on a heroin needle or a crinky porno magazine, and I wasn't sure. And he told me, he gave me a couple pieces of advice saying well, what do you know about fucking heroin? So why are you writing about it? And so okay, yeah, just write what, but not the shitty cheesy write what you know, but actually.
And that didn't make
you
want to go shoot up heroin.
Of course not. Of course not.
To,
I mean, no, because it's okay, I can't. Well, he also told me that the main part of writing is to, what do you say, create instincts for these characters that lead them to dramatic situations. Don't just think what's going to be funny or what's sad or what's dramatic. Give these characters fucking instincts that lead to dramatic situations. Let these people try. And that is that's the only piece of advice I needed. And so he believed in me as a writer, and I chased that. I say there's a couple start getting fucking takes on art, but every artist is playing in a theater, the Grand Ole Opry, some wooden theater, and it's full of people oh, back there's the barista from college who I wanted to impress, and obviously your fucking parents are there. Every artist's parents are there. Every artist's closest friends are there. Anyone who didn't believe in you or did believe in you need to prove right is there. But in my front row, it's completely empty except for Mike Neal, who's in the center. And it's his applause I will never hear. But I'm a fucking nutcase, and I keep going thinking, oh, well, the next project is the one. It's the next one who, if it's not going to bring him back, then maybe it'll stop someone else from losing their Mike Neal, and that's good enough. And so that's my take. I think every artist has that, or should. And so that helped me see, okay, I'm going to pursue writing. Here's where it gets fun.
So you dropped out of law school?
No. Here's where it gets really fun. So I was like, okay, 2L was just me like playing heads up poker, and
2L is just like second year
law school.
No, I'm just like, for the not law school people.
Yeah, sorry. So
I've never been to law school.
The week after, which is my mom's birthday, which is probably also a puzzle piece for our relationship and craziness. But the week after he did it was OCI, on campus interviews, which for law school is like such a big deal. It's where you're going to get your 1L summer job, which is going to dictate the rest of your life and all this.
So you're like talking to like law firms.
Yeah, and I completely blew. Like my best friend just killed someone. Like, why am I going?
What
to
are you going to talk about?
That's actually the only one of the few things I regret in my life. Like period is I went to OCI and like I didn't go to his funeral.
You didn't? Oh,
not shit. Because of OCI. Really, I just didn't think like it would be beneficial. Like I didn't do that. I was like I shut down for like a year. I just didn't even think about it. Just like NPC'd. I unplugged, or I plugged back in rather. I was like, nah, we're going back in, and then it just didn't work. And I was like, you know what, I want to write. So I knew I wanted to write. I wanted to go to like a writing school because I was like, fuck it, let's just keep, getting student loans. Like, I mean, I'm a piece of shit, bro.
Loans.
Yeah, but student loans, like, I'm not gonna be able to pay for this any other way. Like, if the government's willing to pay for me to like better myself, sure. It's a bit of a gamble, and like you're letting me take out infinite markers on a like you fools.
Infinite markers on a whiteboard.
You fools. And so I needed a letter of recommendation. And no, like, what am I gonna ask? Like one of my law professors. And so I sat in on a creative writing like 104 class, and the graduate student and me, well, she was a couple years older than me, and we were writing, and it was like the first thing I ever really wrote. And it was like a story about like this guy who was a jock on a football team in high school, like goes back on his like 15-year reunion. He just like sits on the field a little bit. It's kind of a blockhead tweet. It's like the beginnings of like, the blockhead vibe. It's like he sits on the field a little bit and just like thinks about the game or some shit.
It's like
just learning what to do with these words. Yeah. Just learning what I can do and like how to make people feel. And then I forget what the next two were, but she like we started DMing over like winter break, and then the rest is history, and we started dating.
She wrote your letter of recommendation?
She wrote my letter of recommendation. She was not my professor, like she didn't give me a grade, but she was a graduate student teaching the class I was sitting in on, and we started dating, etc. She actually was an heiress to a large pharmaceutical company, and like her family reunions were like going over, it was like Succession, going over the stock price and like, okay, what are we doing? She gifted me an Audi on my birthday, on the birthday after Mike Neal. So there you go. That's a swing.
That's a swing.
That's a swing right there.
From losing your best friend to like an Audi.
And she had also had trauma. Her best friend had gotten murdered, I believe, was a stripper who had gotten murdered. And so there's like some shared trauma there. And like I was just starting to deal with it, and she was helping me. Like, I wonder if she'll ever like see this, or like, because I haven't talked to her, etc. like that, like audio. It was like a, kind of both, not one crazy, but etc.
But looking back, we're thankful for it. She had a pivotal role.
Gave me one, like the sort of one remarkable like takeaway was, I asked her once, like I had something funny to say. I was like, oh, what's the difference between men and women? I shot some little clever fucking writer. Oh, you're a little first year, second year writer. I got some little clever thing in my pocket. And she thought for a second, and she said, men are always trying to find what part of them is sharp, and women are trying to find ways to stop the leak. And I said, well, that's okay. That beats what I had to say. And so there's, like takeaways like that. Like she knew fucking writing. I'll give her that. And so that lasted about a year until like it was the third year that I sat in on a class. I was, by the way, skipping one of my law school classes, but that was the first time I played my best friend killed himself on my birthday. So I can't go to class because I'm a little bit sad about this. Really, I was going to my girlfriend's class to sit in on her fucking 104 class, because that meant Wednesdays, Thursdays. My law school class met like Tuesdays, Thursdays, or whatever. And so I took a letter of rec, borrowed $5,000 from this girl, and moved to LA and put a deposit down on some really shitty studio, like right off the 101, and got into like the best film school, and I guess the country, if it's the best film school in LA, and went there for 2 years. And
how did that go?
Look, man, here's where like I don't have a lot of writer friends. I expected to be middle of the pack. Sat in a creative writing class for, a semester, written 3 stories with a couple 18-year-olds. They had liked it, but I was 24. Like, I was like, okay, like anything.
Were you older compared
Yeah,
to
I was 23, 24. I was a third-year law school student sitting with freshmen.
They like 18?
University. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, and the professor or whatever, she was 29, so it kind of like worked out. I went expecting to be middle of the pack, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. I do that. Like, I think God put me on this earth to write, and I was the best one there. And that's where it's sort of like the lesson clicked in, where like, okay, I wasn't here to play poker. I wasn't here to do law shit. I wasn't here to do, crypto trading shit, and I was here to write. And it became really clear that writing was my thing. And so at film school, it was just 2 years to network and to like write. Not so much network, but to learn the game and to write and just like, dedicate myself to learning.
What do you think is like the
writing.
most important thing then you learned there about the game?
About the game of writing? Like professors would say things that pop up every now and then. I had a professor who, he broke Moneyball. So what's his fucking name? Sorkin and the other guy like got the award for Moneyball, but so did Stan. And so this dude broke Moneyball, and from like a book about like analytics and like nerdy shit into like a story about this guy and his daughter. And he would always tell me, and I made sure to go to him for my work because I wrote a baseball story. And I was like, no, man, coming from poker, and this is also a common thing, and where I approach it, all the people in WGA hate me, or they should, because I don't.
Or they should.
I don't believe in unions or guilds when it comes to some things. Like, yeah, if you're a pipe fitter, be in a fucking guild. If you are LeBron fucking James, no, I don't think you should be in a guild. Like, you eat what you kill. That's where I come from in poker, where like there's no 5-10 players union.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, if you aren't good enough, well, like Phil Ivy's gonna come down, like Tom Brown's Scott Seaver's, Scott Seaver's gonna come in from Ivy's room and be like, oh bro, here's fucking 10 grand. There you go. No, you weren't good enough that day, or you were just unlucky, which is worse. And so you gotta figure it out. And so that's how I approach writing, which right now we're about to hit a WGA strike, and it's gonna be like 2007 again with like all the craziness. So I don't know. But yeah, it became clear, like that was a big thing for me, was, oh, you should be the best. If God gave you a gift, that is your imperative to work the hardest. And so I was like, even now I wake up at about 3 a.m. and some other writer much better than me said like ego is quietest in the mornings, and that is completely true. And I write from like 3 to 7, 3 to 8, and then I nap, and then I'm up again, and like I try to write throughout the day, but yeah, I try to write all the time.
So like,
I feel like there's a pattern in.
I hear that. I hear that a lot too. Yeah.
Whether it's like Pop Wonder or Ego Dead, who we were talking to,
yeah,
like all these people, Swopes,
like 4
they're
or
like,
5.
yeah, I wake up at 4 a.m. every day, and it's like once I started doing that, it like completely changed my creative process, and it's like the best thing that I could have done for myself.
Oh yeah,
I think Pop Wonder said like 4 a.m. is early, but 3 a.m. is weird, or like there's like something where
True.
like,
okay, real talk though, I'll be up at like 2:30 sometimes. I'm like, this is too early. I gotta wait.
Like,
I gotta wait. Like,
what time do you go to bed?
10 is about right. 10:30.
So you just normally will get like 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah. I'll have like nap throughout the day, but I'm used to like not much sleep. I have to be high all day, every day.
Like you're like a Hunter S. Thompson, but instead of a bunch of drugs, it's just weed. Like from like when you wake up, joint.
It was other stuff too, don't get me wrong, but like I've learned that like, okay, it's not gonna be stims, it's not gonna be a lot of stuff, it's gonna be weed.
I mean, you used to take more Adderall than
but and then lessons learned from that, and like,
what was the number one lesson you learned from taking too much Adderall?
I mean,
you can't say showerhead.
No, it wouldn't be that. I mean, I love him.
We love shower.
Life is long.
Love,
but it would be that makes you, at least me, it like, okay, if I'm gonna jerk off this, like if I'm gonna use like the God connection or whatever, Adderall completely shuts that down, and it just lets you like skim a law book. All the homies in law school were using Adderall and abusing Adderall, and I never even took it once. I was like, nah, I don't need it, whatever. I'll just read the book myself. Honestly, I probably should have taken it. I probably would be a suicided lawyer by now. So I would have done way better in law school. I would have fucking got some like little, fucking sick job, get $30K for a summer. I'd been like, this is great. And I would have ruined my life, not gone writing and shit. It would have been brutal. Or I'd still be here. I don't know. But I didn't do Adderall then, and then when I did it for writing, like I'll write 10 pages, but it's not usable. It's like, okay, you missed the point. Like you just stayed on like a fucking, derivative and just stayed there and just, fixated.
Colored in between the lines.
Yes.
For
instead of
10
drawing the
hours.
fucking picture. Yes. Yes, exactly.
No, I could see that. I was someone who took it a little bit in college, and then I have an addictive personality, and I was just like,
For me, it was Molly.
Can't take
It was a lot of Molly, like on weekends, and then that you like fry your brain a little bit, and that happened during film school because I was like, okay, I figured it out. I broke my hand, punched the elevator, broke my hand.
Oh.
There's all kinds of like things fit in correctly, and I was like, okay, I learned to write about myself, and before I would like. In like one class or whatever, I was gonna write like about the formations of NASCAR. It was a show called Backwoods, and it was gonna be set in the backwoods of North Carolina with the rum runners who would inevitably create NASCAR. And it's a pretty cool show. But I had one professor who was like, "What the fuck are you writing that for?" He's like, "You're from Las Vegas. Like, you have such a cool life and cool stories. Like, write that shit, bro." And that was it. And that's all I needed to hear. And I was like, "Oh wait, none of this is normal. That's right." And I had some context from law school, and I was like, "Okay, that's right. None of this is normal. Got it."
What's your favorite poker movie?
Oh man,
Or I'll
Rounders.
say poker movie, and then also just like general gambling movie. I had a period of time recently where I went on like a total gambling movie binge and watched like everything that you could find on streaming.
I mean, Rounders is the one that I feel like started it for you, or at least it's the one that like you referenced.
It's one that started for everyone.
I mean, yeah, Rounders is.
It's the OG one, yeah. I would watch it with Mike. Like, every poker player has all the lines memorized. You can drop one of those inside jokes, and like everyone gets it.
You come back after a losing night where you got unlucky, and then you just run Rounders back just to remind yourself, like, we can make it back.
But let's see, best gambling movie. I'm gonna like obviously I'll think of something.
Yeah, think about it
later, but.
I feel like when I think of gambling movies, I think of 21. That was like the blackjack one that everybody gets hooked on.
So that's like a good.
We got to segue into some blackjack.
Yeah, that's a good segue into some blackjack So where we left off, like, okay, the film school, I ended up crushing that. Well, like, go back to the film writing or whatever. Blackjack was after my first book, a friend I went to middle school. And I got to watch what I say as well.
We can always bleep something out if we
sure,
have to.
Yeah,
sure.
What was your first book about? Generally,
Mike Neal, generally, and like just it was learning how, like what to tell and just like not turning myself into a brand, but like, oh, I have stories and how to make them, how to just not apply a fictional sheen, and just instead of like, oh, it's a character in a show, now like they're actually mine, and sort of like you're always as an artist, I truly believe you're always the art. Well, now like okay, now I really am sort of like leaning into that, and like these are my stories and like whatever. Versus just I lived these experiences and here's a narrative that dives into all of them, which is like a bunch of TV shows that you gotta like write and pitch or whatever. But yeah, blackjack was a friend from middle school who I was there when he walked out of high school. I was there in the history class when the teacher was like, "Bro, you failed this exam," and he's like, "Fuck this," and he just like stormed out, and that was it. He was done.
Dropped out
like,
of
11th grade, bro.
day.
Just banged it off. Wild. He ended up being like bar back at like the Wynn day clubs and shit, and like like cleaning the shit, and, like finding like wallets with like $3,000 in them, and like having a crazy life. He ended up being like an MMA fighter for a little bit. Went like 1-2, which is like your GG at that point. Like you're not gonna get any fights at that point. Like it's over.
Yeah, you can't start out with some losses.
No, exactly. It's over. It's over.
If you don't win your first 20 fights,
exactly. And
it's like
this dude was like he beat my ass. He beat everyone's ass, but he just like it's over.
Yeah, 1 and 2, it's out.
And so he ended up working at a play, like kind of nerdy place, and the guy who was like in charge there turned out he was like a derivative of like the 21 blackjack team, and he brought my friend on, and they like a lot of those people are retired, and but some of them like still do it, and
they did well
enough. Yeah, like most of them retired, but the ones that are still doing it are playing with him, and he's now in charge of like the current iteration. Yeah, it's like all his, and they have advisors from like
little pizza.
Oh, we got some pizza coming.
It's a cold pizza. We got cold pizza going on. So
they got some advisors.
So he's like 21-ish. The vibe where it's like a team. But
it's completely like that. 21.
He's like college kids who are like
21
good.
nailed it. 21 nailed it.
Anyway. All right. So your buddy is.
Thank you, Spencer.
He's playing blackjack.
He's
21
on it. Yeah,
style.
it's 21 style. It's pretty much just like that. And he hits me up. He's like, "Do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm not making any money. My first book made like 10K lifetime. It wasn't great. I mean, it's fine. Like I do it, for not for the money, but it's not for the money that I do.
So you're like, blackjack, I gotta
So
pay
I'm like,
bills.
okay, exactly, sure.
Like, you were
let's do it.
you were crypto trading before.
Yeah, and
you were-
so I mean, barely. I was like
BitMEX, leverage trading.
Yeah, horrible. Like maybe I get like the Uniswap airdrop. I'm eating, but like this was even before then.
Shout out to the Uniswap airdrop.
Yes.
God.
And this is before what was I gonna say? This is before this is before Uniswap. Oh, this was around Zoomer. This is around like that time.
Like 2018,
2018.
bear
yes.
market.
Yes. This is peak bear
was
market.
bad.
This was really bad.
Yeah,
Had
like,
no money.
options are grim. Like, we can't trade crypto and
Yeah.
hope. Even blind squirrels are not getting nuts in
Yes.
this environment.
It was bad for
up a
everyone.
creek without a paddle.
That was Deeze talks about those times a lot. With the old architects rip. Already shout out Linka and all them. And
I'm gonna dive into this Discord for a second.
please.
The Discord where I met Blockhead, or I maybe not met, but got to really know
Yeah,
Blockhead.
exactly. A
There
lot
was
of
this
people were
group
there.
of imagine just like a bunch of people who didn't get along and like other Discords made a Discord, and then everybody got along there because it was like we didn't get along with other people.
Look, it was like the last stop on the internet is how I think of it. Was there's
Like-
nothing was too far, and not even on like a post-ironic 4chan way, but like you could come with any baggage or anything and not be judged or not be excluded because of it, and that's a nice place, whether you like to admit it or not, or whether you think so or not.
Yeah, it was like the most open place, but you also had to be open to getting like absolutely verbally assaulted every day
Sure.
and dealing with
That's life.
the depressed anxiety of a bunch of people either dealing or using or both
Yes.
multiples of drugs while trying to make it all back in some way off of crypto, whether it was like a smart college kid at Rutgers trying to code a bot, or whether it was like a dude who's eating beans for 4 meals a day and red Supreme slides dealing drugs with a fake identity. Like, those were the type of people who came together.
like-
And among those people were like people I looked up to on Twitter, like Crypto Cred, Loomdart.
Yeah.
Like early on,
Yeah.
like there was a bunch of people, Gainsey was in there.
Yeah.
And over time, like everybody got weeded out except like the battle hardened, like, I don't know, 24 people.
People,
Like, our friend Blob that we were talking, Blob was in there.
well, yeah, everyone's in there.
He was a
Oh,
human
Blob.
punching bag for us.
Yeah.
He was like, "You're just a normal Midwest kid who has no trauma. Like, let's fuck you up." Like, that was kind of
Obviously,
Blob.
people who gravitated or were more active were ones who already had, were preconceived to these sort of circumstances where, people flying off the handle for any preconceived notion
Yeah, like
or
Trills on an island, nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
We're in Discord all day.
if you're flying off the handle, if you're like abusing whatever, like some of us were more, drawn to that. And that's fine.
There was a good streak for like once every 2 weeks. Blockhead would kick me out of the Discord.
Everyone out.
And you would wake up and you'd be like, "Oh, the Discord's like gone." And you're like, "Oh, Blockhead must just have like a bad night."
It's how it is. It's how it is.
Like, that was the environment through which we got through the bear market. So like,
But anyone could do that. Or anyone with that power. You know what I mean? Like,
and
yeah, yeah, sure.
if we got through that chat and the bear market, it was like by 2020, Uniswap's coming out.
Exactly,
Blockhead's
exactly.
on the up and up. But this is the environment that we meant, and that the blackjack thing started happening.
Yes.
So I wanted to like paint that scene.
And
that,
so
like,
that was post film school where like, okay, I knew I was great at writing, but I also don't. And here's where I just like dive into post and like current, where like I don't like. Look, we talk about Eminem a lot, but he says in one song, "A plaque and platinum status is whack if I'm not the baddest." Especially when I was like leaving law school in like 2018 or whatever. I didn't want to be the best Latinx writer. I don't know what that means, bro. I don't want to be the best fucking Middle Eastern writer. I don't know what that means. I want to be the best writer, and so I'm not gonna play that card. And if I remember on an HBO, to give you a context clue, on HBO Fellowship, it asked, please describe your favorite spot to write. It could be a seat next to a well-lit window or a comfy chair in your coffee shop. And I said the difference between writing in the comfiest chair in your coffee shop or scrawling your story on a jail cell wall in feces is purely cosmetic. And I don't think I got the fellowship. So that sort of sums up like how I see other writers like, "Oh, well, I love that." No. Like Am I trauma gating? Definitely. You have to have had a fucking journey to write about one. Come on. Otherwise, like, go write about elves and dragons and shit, man. I don't know.
That is true. Like, there's a lot of people who get into writing maybe from like a middle class.
They like
Combined
reading
family.
and they are well educated and they're like, sure, why not? And is it fair? I don't know. It's not for me to say, but all I know is, well, this is all I have is my story and the craziness and shit. And so if you're trying to play your card and say, oh, well, you're, the divorce or like the DUI your dad got driving you to school is in any way like special, nah, fuck off, get in line.
Yeah, so it's like easier to pull from past trauma rather than to create trauma you didn't live.
One of my favorite movies is Inception. And Christopher Nolan fucking nails that. And I swear, he's actually talking. He's talking about like building a dream. He's talking about telling a story. And yeah, one of the like the tips he says, he warns you about pulling from memory, but he's right. The best stories are pulled from memory. And yeah, it helps if you've, like lived something close, but if you've actually been there, then that's the only way you're gonna get there. And like the people who, like talk about going to Iraq and like going to war, that's only gonna be vets. And like you'll never see me really write about that because I didn't do it. Or like, I don't know, abortion. Like I don't because I don't know, I haven't had one, right?
Yeah.
So like stuff like
Not
that.
yet.
You weren't aborted.
I was no aborted. Yes,
You called your mom the first e-girl.
yes, I did call my mom the first e-girl. I mean, she was taking the sort of like precursors to a lot of the meds nowadays, with like the Xans and the Klonopins and the gabapentin and shit. Which like fucking Zoomer. I have a story called "Sharing Locations" in my next book, and it's about taking out one of these very famous like Twitter e-girls on gabapentin and Klonopin, her prescriptions, and because she was dating some fucking LA podcaster, we needed to download an app that helps you cheat at Pokemon Go, and it lets you alter the GPS location because she was sharing locations. And so yeah, I took her out to Vegas for like a 3-day weekend, and the entire time she was like having a mental health break in her apartment. And that's gonna be the story
So
sharing
how
locations.
Do you find a e-girl on Twitter? Like, is there like a funnel?
So this and like it helps because I just wrote all this. So I met her
Fresh.
I met her at an LA a book reading, or just like a reading at a bookstore. Sorry, I met her in LA reading at a bookstore, and she, what do I say? She was on stage. I was in the audience. That dynamic is not an
She
accident.
was reading her book?
She was reading from her Twitter feed. Imagine like a girl,
What?
just
So
some
like a book reading, but just of tweets.
I might need to go to
one
one.
of these little fucking e-girls in
Holy
like
shit.
like a black mini skirt and like some turtleneck, going up there, opening her phone and just reading her like tweets about cum and like grinding dudes on Tinder and like waving a tissue full of cum, like how in old pictures women used to wave handkerchiefs at sailors. And like, sure. Yeah, exactly. Like, sure. Just like a kind of gross, funny, whatever Twitter tweet.
You're
yeah,
in.
exactly. Yeah. And
You're
so
enamored.
what happened was there was a Rick and Morty writer who went right before her or after her, and I just completely shit on him. This idiot was like on his iPad writing a story right there, like he was some like fucking quick change artist or some shit about needing to take a nap, and then he had listened to a podcast about napping and thinking about all that while he was lying down, couldn't get him to nap, and how that was ironic. Some shit. He's a Rick and Morty writer. It's amazing you can fucking read. And so he goes up there. I tweet about it. I don't even know what I said. It's definitely still up there, and it's from like 2018 or some shit. And she sees the tweet and she sees the feed, and I literally my editor was like, "You need a real message," and so I went to our DMs and I found a message where she was like, "I went so deep in your feed, I'm embarrassed. I saw all these Pepes and I was like, who is this man?" And so she DM'd
That's a
me.
modern day love story.
She followed me back and we started following each other. Look, I was 30, she was 24, which is a gap, but not, too
not
bad.
bad.
It's not bad.
I mean, if you divide 30 by 2, that's 15. And then you add
Close to
7,
seven.
that's
Sure,
22.
sure.
So you're technically in the range.
I'll cut to the chase where like if you're not willing to share like I don't know, the family part, and like I never met her parents. She in fact was like, "Oh, he's the corrupting influence in my life and stuff," and it was a whole fucking. I'm not gonna say like read the story, but I can go over it too.
It was also one of those things like you knew it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not healthy. It was not.
It wasn't meant to last.
It wasn't meant to last. No, it wasn't built to last. And so that was around the same time as the blackjack team. And that happens in sharing location. That's we go and play blackjack, thinking I can like count the cards in front of her, and it's gonna be a great time, and it's not. And yeah, the blackjack team. I mean,
is it easy to get distracted when you're like trying to show off in front of somebody?
It's just what makes it profitable is you're socializing losses. And so there's 20 groups going out there, and so if I lose 100K, it's okay because you win 150 and you win 20, and so we chop it up and we're good. If it's just me and I lose 100K, that fucking sucks and it's over. And that's just how it was. So it was really more like we ran bad, I was poor, and so like we lost all $600 in like 30 minutes, and then we're like depressed.
You're at the 7-Eleven, you got 2 packs of ramen, and you're just.
And I'm remembering I'm 30 and just lost all $600 to my name. And why was it just $600 to my name? And I'm 30. Oh fuck.
Wait.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Yeah.
So I'd say recently, like the last few years, have been on the up and up. Like, when did things start to?
So
when was there like light at the end of this tunnel? Because we're pretty close the last 4 years, and it's still pretty grim.
Yeah,
like,
and there's been like
$600 at the blackjack table
and
in
that was
front
like
of our girlfriend who's 6 years younger than us, and we're like, it's over.
using a Pokemon Go app to hide
to hide
from her boyfriend,
location.
hide from her boyfriend, the LA podcaster. Oh boy. So she breaks up with me in a letter around like Christmas. So that's like down bad status, but also like being very unhinged on Twitter.
Yeah. You're being yourself.
Yeah, well, no, she is. She's being unhinged on Twitter.
She is.
After like blocking me, et cetera, et cetera. What happened? And so I was like off the grid, writing a lot. So we've been working on everyone was like, oh, Blockhead, make a coffee table book. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And we pulled a bunch of tweets. This was like fucking 4 years ago. She made something called Sad Libs, which is like Mad Libs. But, it's like, oh, you wake up in blank fast food restaurant parking lot and take a bottle of blank prescription pill. Real clever. Oh, it's very smart. And she ended up only having the only copy of like the manuscript or whatever. And just when she left, took it and dipped. And so I wrote like a second book. Go fucking buy it on Amazon. It's all in second person, like kind of coping with that, breakup. And then through Tom Kaiser, shout out Tom. And his ex Riva, I guess as well, met, I met Tom, over the internet, like within a week of meeting Zoomer. And so that was like a very remarkable week. I went back and saw this.
Wow.
Yeah, right. That's crazy.
One of those points in time where a lot of things happen.
Big inflection point,
you don't
man.
realize that stuff's happening all at once, and you look back, you're like, damn.
And so I met this guy.
How did he come?
So he hit me up on Twitter in DMs, and he's like, hey, I'm a big fan. I see you're in LA. I'm living in like a TikTok house in LA. And Tom he ran operations at Augur, and he's like the smartest fucking crypto person I ever met. So I just talk about going to law school. I'm a fucking professional gambler. Clearly a nerd. So like I know a bunch of homies with like, who just know about like, poker cases, read the UIGA, all kinds of shit. He knows more about gambling law than I ever will. Like a fucking poker player with a law degree, he just has me crushed. Never went to law school. I think he went to like a week of college. But
how old is Tom?
He's like 27, I think.
He's
26.
young,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he's younger than me.
Yeah, he's very sharp.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He hit me up and he was like, "Oh, bro, do you want to work at my company?" This was a year ago in 3 days. And I was like, "Yeah, man, no brainer. This kid's like a genius. He's gonna like, be a billionaire one day. Like, forget it." And so he hits me up. He's like, "Come to the TikTok house." I go there. This is the first time I've never been so high. Still in LA, like the top of the hills, above the helicopters. I didn't know you could go this high. And like we're smoking a spliff, watching it. I forget that like tobacco is in spliff, so I'm inhaling it like a motherfucker. I have to puke in his bathroom after like 2 hours, just like chain smoking spliffs. Like, why am I feeling so sick, bro? But he decides to keep hanging out with me, and so through his ex Riva, she's friends with a billionaire. It's not Elon. That's all I'll say. It's not Elon.
Not Elon.
And I'm like still not sure. I think I can say this at least. It's not Elon, and they needed a writer. They were adapting a book. I'm not even going to say what book, but it is a very polarizing book.
Yeah, famous older book.
Famous what?
Older book.
Yeah, famous older book.
You're gonna have to tell me what it is.
Yeah, I will. And it's just like this billionaire's favorite book. And so he's like, hey, I want somebody to adapt it. The guy who created Mad Men, which is my favorite show, shout out Mad Men. It's like Kanye style. Mad Men is playing in my apartment on loop. I've seen every episode 200, 300 times. I'll just like my girlfriend like puts up with me, like I'll just like autistically fucking say the lines along with Pete Campbell. Like she's like, okay, like sure.
I
But
have every script written.
they went to the creator of Mad Men. He didn't want to do it. They went to Clint Eastwood, and he didn't want to include what is probably a key part of the book. And he kind of like bitched out. And so, look, everyone in the WGA right now is like, hey, if we, go on strike, do you scabs think that you WGA writer, you pre-WGA writers, rookie writers with no credits, that the studios are going to go to you and, ask you to make the next Marvel movie? Well, yeah, this billionaire did fucking go to me after Clint Eastwood. And he was like, hey, can you adapt this? And I said, yeah, let me take a shot. And everyone gave me advice like, don't do it, man. You don't have any contract. Does he even have the rights? I won't get to that. And I was like, it doesn't matter because I'm going to kick this thing's fucking ass. And worst case is a billionaire owes me a favor, which isn't fucking bad, bro. As like, this poor kid from the desert. And so I wrote he wanted a TV show, and I wrote a 72-page pilot for the first episode. And I sent it to him, and this dude read it, which is already like crazy because like, don't you have fucking empires take over or some shit, bro? And
But he didn't outsource that to his assistant.
what?
He didn't outsource it to
No,
his
no,
assistant.
no. He read it, and he was like, "This is great. Like, let's meet." And so we met. A year pretty much after me and Zoomer like broke up, and it was just like a year of doing nothing. I mean, a lot of homies, Deeze, Trill, fucking shout out. Like, I had no way of like making money, just like applying to shitty things, and like the homies were hitting licks in NFTs when like I had no money to even like invest anyway. So Deeze gave me, what was it called?
Singularity.
A Singularity, which like I sold for like way too cheap at the time, but like Trill
I
gave
minted it to his wallet for like 0.1 ETH.
Yeah.
I was like, hey man, I sent you something. Like,
Yeah.
we're doing well.
Trill gave me a fucking, what was it, John Morant dunk post hollow legendary 1 of 1 whatever the fuck, that like while I was waiting for this bill, so I ended up going to this billionaire's house. It's the sickest, by the way, in the fucking hills. He has 2 like security driveway
it's like a Star
guards.
Wars movie.
It's insane. And
I'm trying to figure out has the show come out?
so what happened? We got front run by the rights, and so the person who like kind of owned the rights, it turned out when he heard about, and we met with him when he heard like, oh, what we were doing, he was like, oh, well, I can go and like, essentially like the billionaire got front run, believe it or not.
Okay.
And so this dude like
I think I know what you're talking about then, based on that.
you might.
But I'll keep my guess private. We'll see
And
later.
so, but I ended up going there, and he's like, yeah, this is great, whatever. And we talked, and this dude's really smart. And we talked, and we talked for like 3-4 hours, and the entire time I was needing to piss so bad, but I was like, you can't, because after like 2 hours, like you're already like in
That's us in
double
this
bonus.
pod. 2 hours in the pod, I'm feeling that
Yeah.
there might be a puddle starting to form,
Sure.
and I'm like, we got a break.
But you're in double. If you're like, especially like with
With
I'm never
him,
gonna,
you're just
I'm never
like,
gonna
I'm
get that
gonna
audience again. So
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
I'm like,
this is a one-time
I'm-
thing.
Yes.
You used to have to think that way. It's
Yes,
like, this
exactly.
is the only time I'm ever gonna be.
If I go to the
sitting down.
bathroom,
Exactly.
he might kick me out of his house.
Odds are
Exactly.
this is the last time I ever speak to him.
Yes.
And I need to make the most of it.
Yes, exactly. And like, look, and, like I showed up pretty much like this, except with a hoodie. Like, smoked weed before, because look, if you got invited, there's a reason you're in the room. And so it's like, okay, I can just be myself, and like he's not gonna ask me questions about like some other shit I don't know about. Like, there's clearly a
It
reason.
probably would have
there.
been worse if you showed up in a suit and you were like, "Oh, hello, sir."
No. Yeah, I guess you're right, actually. Yeah, damn. And he ended up.
There's a lot of truth in that. It took me a while to realize that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're invited, like, there's probably a reason, and like people want you to be yourself rather
Yeah.
than like put on a mask.
Yeah,
And
I've only had
so-
one experience. I'll let you finish your story, but I had one experience with a billionaire where I felt very similar to that.
I want to hear this. And so yeah, he ended up. It took him 4 months to pay me, which like it was
We
like.
were worried he wasn't gonna get paid, but like surely by the time, well, that's like that guy like tipping the waiter $20.
Bro, it was
Yeah.
like it was.
He'll
a
just
rounding
forget
error.
about it.
Nothing to him, but to me, it's life changing. It was my first check,
It was
life
like
changing money.
his first ticket out.
And while
Yeah.
I'm waiting,
And what was
Trill,
like? You don't have to say like number. What was the order of magnitude of check of this comparatively to?
So
like, you were
this
saying
this
you're
will
paying-
no,
you're playing
this will
six-
frame it perfectly.
You're playing $600
yeah.
a night in blackjack.
This will frame it
to try to-
perfectly. So Trill ended up while I was waiting for the check, just like fucking starving. Trill gave me like and like don't ask any of these people for money. I gotta fucking put that out there because Trill fucking hate me if I don't say it's like I knew Trill since fucking these 2017. So unless you know him for that long, fucking stay out of his DMs. And he gave me some sicko fucking thing I sold for $5,000 this Top Shot. I could pay my bills. But what I was doing since that previous March, before I even met the billionaire, it was COVID, and so I didn't pay my rent. I didn't have to. I was living in a fucking studio apartment, like $2,000 rent in LA,
He's
and
ignoring the rent.
just ignoring the rent because I can. And it's California is the highest like property for the tenant protection
yeah.
laws in like the fucking world, bro. You're set. And so I
You
shit you
probably
not,
own
bro.
that apartment now. Actually, you just don't know it.
No. Well, hand to God, hand to Mike Neal is I got paid. So I got the email April 1st. I said, cruel fucking joke. Like, hey, we're finally gonna pay you. And April 4th, I got paid. This is it was a roller coaster fucking time because I was staying in the London and West Hollywood, like splurging money because I just got my DYDX airdrop and the apartment was in such like I was living in squalor. I would roll my fucking joints. I have to smoke like 10 joints a day or whatever. I'd roll them. I'd flick the stems over there. Just over there, bro. I'd sit on the floor in my room and just flick the stems where the other trash is. It was like literally, damn bitch, you live like this? It was that meme. I was living that. And so I had a bunch of back rent the entire time, the 3 years since working. So after graduating film school, I worked at a shitty crypto startup. I won't, name names, whatever. People think it's actually like a big deal, but I didn't like it. It got acquired. It got acquired, yeah. But whatever. And what did I do? I was borrowing money. I was borrowing money from Gabe. Shout out Gabe, my poker homie, who ended up loaning me 35 grand over the course of 3 years. Wow. I would hit him up working at the grocery store, making like $2 grand a month, barely enough to pay my rent. And so I'd be like, bro, can I borrow $1,000? This, like, I'd fucking have no money. I'm smoking like shitty weed carts just to fucking cope, being on the bus, riding 90 minutes a fucking day or whatever. Riding 90 minutes each way to go to the fucking grocery store to stock shelves. And when I got the check, I sat up in my bed in the fucking London. I cried like a baby. And then I sent Gabe enough to pay him back every penny. And then I bought a car. I bought my SUV. And then I moved.
And then you're like, wow, I have like a base.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I have some stability. And that was really kind of crazy and weird.
Well, it's funny because I remember, like, I think we were in Vegas after you met with him, but before you got paid.
Yeah.
Like, we were in Vegas, like, January.
Yeah.
And it was like, geez, I don't think you're going to get rugged.
Yeah, probably not. It was funny because a show had just come out on Netflix about someone who, like, a writer who wanted to, write a show, and they'd gotten, like, scammed by some Chinese company, like, oh, we're going to make your dreams come true. I'm like, damn, man, that's pretty messed up.
I know. Like, we were not worried as your friend, but we're like, we hope you get paid.
It was a pretty wild, it's pretty, like, wild. It's like, like I said, you hear, like, oh, Marvel's not going to go to you.
World of Warcraft, chain smoking,
trying
to pass the time to when you're going to get paid. Like, I would just be talking to you, and I'm grinding WoW.
Yeah, I was like, okay, he'll pay me when he pays me, and there's nothing you can do to Russia. I guess I could have been more productive, but it was such, and that sort of like,
you're just in like this.
I was in a relationship with Boomer, who there's Zoomer and Boomer, and like their code names. I don't want to like. It was bad.
And like Boomer was like the older.
She came after, and
lady
she was like
who like probably maybe had your best
interest at heart. Sure, well, yeah, but it was bad timing, and was what it was. It was bad timing, and it was
using a sharing app that hides her location from
no.
That
was Zoomer. But like it was bad timing, and I was so broke that when I wasn't at the hotel, I wasn't at my apartment. I would stay with her for like weeks at a time, and that's just not sustainable. It was already done, and then I just like completely nuked it, and like
just like parasitic tumor at the
Well,
apartment.
kind of, yeah. Oh, me, yeah. No, definitely. And so like waiting for the check, bro. She like woke up to me like punched myself in the face because I was like, I'm so fucking worthless. I mean, like I'm like like all cards on the table. Like this is how I am. And so I was like waiting for this life changing amount of money when like $200 would like have been. Like, oh my God, where am I going to get that? And it was just a lot. It was a lot. And so that like fizzled the rest of it. And so, yeah, after I'd gotten the check, we're just going through the whole fucking trajectory. After I got the check, like 2 weeks after I bought my car and like was picking apartments, we're done, whatever. Like it was, for the best. And so a month later, I'm at some party in the hills where I could probably say all this. Tom has to get me in because I was invited. But I didn't give
guest list.
I didn't secure, like I didn't confirm.
You were invited,
the fucking text.
but like no one on the guest list is named Blockhead.
Exactly, it was exactly. And so Thomas hit up the fucking
his time.
The CEO who just got his shit acquired for like $500 million at his fucking house, and so he comes out. He's like, "Oh, I was just talking about you with fucking Brian Armstrong." I'm like, "Oh, bet, okay." And at the dessert table, I meet some ballerina who I'm like, she's like, "Oh, what are you writing?" I tell her the book I just adapted for this billionaire, and there we go for 6 months. This
ballerina,
like, everything that glitters ain't gold. And
a ballerina is like a literal ballerina.
Yeah, she was some like really rich girl,
an
heiress from. She told me once that she was like, "Yeah, my mother." No, she said my dad is bourgeoisie. He was like a fancy, like he literally works for like the World Economic Forum. He's like one of the like actual
like
like
Klaus Schwab's
dude who invented money. Like she's a ballerina because she was trained classically in Russia when her dad was there making post-Soviet like economic policy and like shaping that. And so yeah, that's why. But what happened?
6 months.
Oh yeah, 6 months, and then that. I mean, it fizzled out. It wasn't a real thing.
So that brings you to Texas.
So the entire time, like, I need to reconnect with my mom.
Yeah.
And you know, like I had just gotten the check, and I'd finally gotten some stability. I'm like, okay, I don't want to stay in LA. I don't want to play the whole writing game. I think like I'd already known that like it's already overbought. It's not sustainable. They care too much about mediocre stories and carrying it through and whatever. And not everyone should be a writer. Sorry. And it is that competitive. You better hope it's not as competitive as poker fucking was. But that's being discovered now with like the strike and this and that. No, whatever.
Like, what was the big strike? Because I don't know. Like,
it's not happening yet.
Pretty ignorant.
So there was a Writers Guild strike in like
2007.
2007 where basically, so like everyone, like the majority of like, especially like television show writers, they're all in this Writers Guild, and I don't remember the exact specifics.
It was for streaming. Young. It was for streaming, right?
Yeah.
And so they
like
they
Netflix
secured
is getting popular.
Yes. Yeah. They secured they were like, okay, this isn't video on demand. We're not going to get like a smaller fraction. You're going to carve out like a new fucking way to look at this, essentially.
Okay.
And so
was it successful?
It was successful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
I
waited
remember
for
like
days.
for a period of time that was like, oh, I'm not sure if the new TV shows are going to come out
Yeah.
because I think like we were coming up towards like one of the last seasons of Lost, and I was like, oh, it might be delayed or something because of this. And
They went on strike for 100 days, and I mean, they didn't have talk shows. There was a lot of like Survivor. Reality TV got a huge bump because at that time
there's no writers.
there's no writers and there's no writing, and so you just like film the Kardashians. Okay, there you go. Fuck it. Okay, we don't. And guess what? That's what happens.
Writers.
That's what happens though, bro. Because
you realize
we're coming from crypto, where like the markets set the terms, and so coming from poker, it's the same thing. We're like, okay, yeah, now. If you are removing yourself from the game, it's going to be played without you.
They'll find another way.
If
people aren't going to stop watching TV.
Exactly. Now, if people are going to say like no, and they start to riot and like demand that your show comes back, then you did it. I guess you were good enough. But until then, okay. And so
like Lost is maybe one of the only shows that had that notoriety that maybe could get.
Sure. I mean, it ended up being
Law and Order SVU maybe. I don't...
Sure. And so this year it's kind of similar. It's a little different. People complain about like, oh, the writers' rooms are too small.
Not enough fresh juice.
They're not paying enough. You're not able to make a whole career out of it. I'm saying 2 of the kids I graduated with should be fucking writers, period. So like, there's it's a matter of like
it's
the
not
market's
a
figuring
job
out.
like you're not a government employee. Like
you get to play make believe. You get to sit in an office in Glendale and get paid like $5,000 a week, $3,000 a week to play make believe. And so that should be the most privileged, coveted fucking position ever. But again, I'm coming from like the poker perspective where like, yeah, clicking buttons all day, like it is competitive. You're in the arena. I don't know what to tell you. And like being able to not have, like when I go and type a sentence, it's 100% going to be what I'm intending to type. It's not going to be pocket aces against A7. Oh, I hope I win. I probably will, but you never know. It's going to be 100% what I intend, and there's nothing like that. As a former professional gambler, that is what I'm chasing. Is yes, guaranteed. I don't like playing Risk. I'd rather play.
So you gamble.
I'd rather bet on yourself.
Yeah. I don't like playing the game Risk. Oh my god, what's it called? Not Dominion. Where you talk and like argue with things, and like I don't like the risk element in games. I don't want to roll a dice. I want to talk my way into it. And I'd rather bet on me. Like I'd rather bet on the skill component and try and win, even if I'm not good enough, which a lot of times I'm not.
But you have like the awareness to know too.
Yeah, sure. Or like I know it's like like if I'm playing poker, I know I'm probably gonna lose the money. It's for fun or whatever. Or like
I don't even play.
Yeah.
People at events, they'll be fucking like Keyboard Monkey and Mike McDonald or something like. I'm walking into the Shark Den here. Like I'm just gonna burn and
Keyboard Monkey is actually quite good.
Whatever money I have on fire here.
Yeah.
Like,
the most I'll never play more than like a very casual 20-40 table or
buy-in
no.
for a fucking
No,
that shit scares me.
I would only play like the home games as for like the blockhead type, like get research for a show or something, or like stuff like that. I don't
play like chill home games.
Yeah, like I didn't leave Vegas to pursue poker obviously at all. I'm like I've made too many steps on this journey of like being a writer and knowing that's my destiny or whatever, and like pursuing that path that it's a hobby.
Do you
It's
think
like fun.
being a writer and having to or wanting to pull things from experience has made you like say yes to more shit or like find yourself in more things, like you're talking to the Zoomer or the ballerina?
Not so much that. You would think so, but not so much that. I understand, I think, maybe this is separate from it, that the world is not how life is not what you plan for. So when I meet this, wonderful girl as my waitress, and then like we hit it off, I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. She's like qualities I'm looking for, etc. The chemistry's right. Like, let's pursue this instead of thinking like, in that other context of like, oh, she's a waitress or whatever, or like anything else.
Like she's not an heiress.
Sure, like that. Yeah, no, I don't
kind of
think
just like
about
not
it in those
overthinking
contexts.
it and going.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
exactly,
flow.
exactly. Like it didn't matter if she was an heiress or a waitress. Like that's irrelevant.
So you met her. You're visiting your mom in town.
I'm visiting my mom. I'm staying
She's a
in
waitress.
Houston. There's a chance she's a federal agent. No, I'm joking.
I mean,
but
she could be. There's
she
always
could
a
be.
chance.
Yeah.
There's
No,
always a non-zero chance.
there is. And so she was my waitress. We met the first night or the second night. The first night I went with P Tokes. Shout out P Tokes, and we went to the restaurant, had beers. It was a great Texas night, the most Texas night possible.
Do you have like a steak?
No, just some oysters. I mean, some
Okay.
like grilled oysters is so great. And
Fucking
so
love grilled oysters.
the next night, it's Friday, and I go back there, I meet her, or no, it's for lunch. I go back there, I meet her, make some little quip about,
You go back
Big
to the same
Red.
restaurant.
Yeah,
that you
I
ate.
went back there 4 days in a row. It was right around the corner from where I was staying. I was staying at Airbnb with the dock, 15 minutes away from my mother, because I needed that space and like just go and sit on the dock and just stare and be like, okay, because it is. Look, man, when I first walked in after not seeing this one for 7 years, she was like, "Oh, what took you so long?" I'm not even joking.
Not
So
like it's nice to see you.
No, what took you so immediately? Like, immediately, there's the end of the sword. So okay,
What took you so long?
yeah,
And you just
okay.
turned around and walked away.
bro.
You went back to the restaurant.
And like a 15-minute drive to that, like that was fun.
But you're going back to the restaurant the day
I go
after
back
you
to the
were
restaurant,
P-Tokes. P-Tokes is our friend on Twitter. He's
Yeah.
anonymous. When I think of P-Tokes, I think of like a very smart, like strength and conditioning,
Yes.
physical therapy,
And a hog
like,
hunter.
very like
Yeah.
chatty chat.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Was like, I got a gun in the truck. We can go, shoot off in the parking lot. I'm like, oh, maybe.
yeah, his picture is like dude in a cowboy hat with like Solana shades, and like that's just how you imagine P-Tokes.
Yeah. And so the next day I go, I hit it off with this waitress. I'm like, are you still working this weekend? She's like, yeah. She says the next day, I go back the next day, she's not there. I go back Sunday, the last day, for dinner. After like I see my mom for the last time. She gives me her number before I ask for it. And so that was great. And then like I go back to the house and I'm like, look, I'm not trying to like wait another couple months. Like, do you want to come over? We can talk. We go to the dock, talk, da 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 da. We ended up, connecting. I kind of shook up her life a little bit, obviously, just fucking air.
I mean, you're just like a
come through.
tornado that's just
come through,
going
bro.
around.
I guess.
and you're like,
so
oh, hey, waitress.
we hit it off. We talked to like make sure it was gonna be good and stuff, and so we ended up moving together. To like Dallas, like near Dallas.
Never thought you'd have been in Texas.
I had to get out of LA.
Yeah.
Not only was like, look, taking the book with the billionaire, and like that was already writers will hate the book and stuff like that. A lot of like the political types of Los Angeles will hate the book, and like just hate me for that. And so I already hate most other writers anyway. Like I'm not.
You're not trying to make friends.
I see us. Oh yeah. I'm not trying to like make friends with other competitors. It's like other poker players. Like I respect some, and like we're good acquaintances. And, like I have a couple like writer friends. Like just like I have a couple of friends, but not really. And most of them are competitors. And anyone who writes drama is worse than me. That's just like what like I have to think that. It's like a high level poker player not thinking that, like, then why are you playing?
Yeah, well, I feel like the same thing. You see that with like basketball players and stuff.
Sure.
Where like a basketball player who's clearly not
Andy.
the best basketball player
Look,
is like,
Andy.
yeah, I'm the best.
Sure.
And people online will like shit on them, and be like, oh, they're so stupid. It's like, no, you have to think like that.
You have
If
to.
you're in a competitive field where it matters how good you are, like it actually matters, not like being some middle of the fucking road like software developer where it doesn't fucking matter.
Sure.
Then like you have to
There's
always think
less
I'm the best.
direct results from your efforts as
Yeah.
a software developer versus in basketball. Yes, you are not drafted, you are not fucking contract renewed, whatever, if you are not a good enough player,
Yeah.
etc. And so In poker, it's the same thing. It's even more direct, where there's no contracts, nothing. If you were unlucky for a day and you really tilt and fuck up, you just blew everything. So in writing, when you're making it up at higher stakes, where you can get like, a $10 million overall deal or whatever, it should not be that. Fuck off. Fuck off completely. People talk about, I don't know, I'm not gonna start in, but yeah.
No, we like it.
I was gonna say, they talk about like the tech companies are making too many profits. What money? Who's making money? Everyone's losing money. What tech companies are making money, bro? They're all losing money. I get what you mean. Like, no, it's not how it works. There needs to be like a cleansing of all of the content. We've known this. Sorry that like writers still play make believe and hope that everyone can write a show about their fucking mediocre experiences.
That's why I don't write.
That's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
I can barely read, let alone write.
And like I can't at all visually create, like not like make anything. Not I can take like mediocre pictures, like same as everyone. Like I don't have that. It's just the words.
Not an artist with your fingers.
No,
or...
We went to Fiwo's. Now he was like, bro, why? I'm like, Fiwo, how you see the blank canvas and you just know what goes there? That's how I see like the fucking Word doc. I know exactly what to say. I know exactly how to make you feel how I feel and how to communicate that feeling to you.
But
I can't do that visual. No.
I don't know, something about taking out the glove with your hand full of paint and just like smashing the canvas like a cat clawing into that couch. It felt so cathartic. Like I don't know. I might just go home and buy a bunch of gloves and.
Sounds like a good time to
I
me.
don't know. We have a question we asked. What time is it?
It's like 4. We could probably.
We doing good?
Yeah, we're doing good, but we can always.
We
can always ask this and then keep going.
Yeah. I feel like you're going to give us an answer of a book that you've already written, because maybe you kind of have.
Sure.
But the question that we ask everybody on the pod, at least, I want to make sure we ask it to you, because I need to make art that represents the title, is if you were writing an autobiography, what would the title be? And that's like, you kind of have titles that are already out there, and you've already written some like...
Sure, yeah. It wouldn't be Seed Open, it wouldn't be What's It Like Growing Up in Vegas. Those are like, yeah, they're autobiography, but like...
But not the
I get what you're saying. So
cumulative.
I have a manuscript for a children's book about...
Your autobiography is a children's
No,
book?
it's not, but I'm going to steal the title.
Okay.
The children's book is about like this little kid of like the son of a housekeeper. He sneaks into like his mom's minivan one day and goes to the strip, and it's like a child's like view of the strip, and like, oh, the fucking lions and this and that, and like the animals, and like he accidentally wins the megabucks on a slot machine. A kid's book about Vegas. There's no fucking kid's book about Vegas. Like there should be. There's children in Vegas. Like fuck off. It's called The Luckiest Kid in Vegas, and it would be that.
Yeah.
Probably.
I like that. I can imagine like a kid with a giant birthday cake or a giant prize coming out of like the claw machine. Like you got that fucking thing in the claw machine that looked physically impossible, but it's like an iPhone 14.
Give me that cash voucher. Give me that cash voucher for $1 million.
I mean, you get the plushie and it's almost there and it just drops.
Always.
They have those games. They have the claw machine game is a game you can gamble on in Las Vegas. Like how you just described. It's actually a game.
There was a game where it was like skill, where you would try to stop it was like a flying white dot across a pixelated board, and there was like an arrow, and if you lit up like the whole arrow, you got like
Impossible.
an iPod.
Impossible.
Yeah, no, like you would hit it and it would glitch and like lag.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, it wasn't a game of skill. It made it seem like it was a game of skill.
No,
exactly.
But it was a coin flip.
I was so easily fooled as a kid.
Like poker, it seemed like a game of skill. Or no, sorry, like poker, it seemed like you are going to I fucked up.
Poker is kind of a game
it's backwards.
of skill.
No, poker is game of skill, but like poker, it made you think that you're going to win.
Yeah.
That you could control, like, you can control it, but that you were going to win.
Like, I was sitting down at a table with all sharks, and I didn't realize it. And I was like, oh, I can win this. Like, I got it at 6.
You thought you had a way
like,
in.
Maybe I'll get lucky.
Yeah, you thought you had a way in, and you didn't.
No.
That's how it's like poker.
Do you ever, like, you don't play poker for fun, do you?
Sure I do.
You do?
Sometimes.
You still?
Yeah. A little bit. Like, sometimes online, I'll get bored. Like, my girlfriend leaves for a week. Or like, a weekend or whatever, like I'm gonna play fucking poker like a Sunday.
What gambling have you done recently? Like, you're not trading shit coins?
I'm a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a little altcoin season, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little. The time's a little.
The last month has been nice, or 2 months maybe.
Yeah.
The Arbitrum, like the L2 stuff. You like in the trenches on a bunch of L2s, just
A little bit.
doing
A little bit.
degen shit, trying
People
to
are like airdrop farming.
Yeah, I feel like that's the real alpha right now. But I almost wonder.
Everyone says that.
But, no, but my thing
Everyone
is, if
says it, like,
everyone's
no one does it.
yeah, everyone knows now that you have to be farming, like airdrop farming these things.
We're just hoping that like two protocols definitely give airdrops, and like they probably will for certain reasons, but it just seems like.
I mean, this MetaMask one has been talked about forever. Like,
Well, I wasn't even thinking about MetaMask.
I feel like that's one.
That won't. I don't
Is
think
it ever
that's
gonna happen?
No.
No, it's they're fucking making so much money lying about having an airdrop. They've made like $500 million
That's the
in
business
revenue.
model?
Yeah, literally, their business model is lying about having an airdrop because they have the fucking swap app in there where they take a ridiculous
Yes.
fee.
Yeah.
It's a
And
fact.
so everyone's like, oh, the way you get the airdrop is by having swap volume on MetaMask. And they've made $500 million in the last 12 months from people speculating on an airdrop just from the fees.
It's brutal. I mean, let's say I gamble with Tom, the founder of Size. Shout out Size, the fucking on-chain protocol for our fucking auction. That's the company we're at. And Tom loves craps. And so every time I'm in Vegas, we play craps.
Oh, I'll have to come. I love craps.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, I love craps.
So craps is magical to me. I've said it like, if you don't know what you're doing, just go with someone like Tom, someone like Andy, and like
You stand
how I
there
learned.
the first time. Yeah, I played with
Bahamas.
the first time you play
Really?
craps when you're
Okay.
like first learning. You're just watching. Like if I at the table, there's dudes who know what's going on.
Yeah.
You're sitting there. And guys are screaming at each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're yelling stupid shit that makes no sense. Throwing chips across the table to the dealer. People are doing stuff. They're like, "Get your hands off the fucking table."
She got the whip. She's
Yeah.
taking in all the shit.
There's chips that are going places where there's no reason they should be there. There's no symbol or anything that would make you think that there should be chips there.
No.
Well,
It's a
how are you
very
putting it
special
behind the
game.
line?
you need to know, or
Yeah.
just you're fucked.
And you just do the same. Like I don't even really fully remember. I was just like doing the same bet every single time.
It was just playing the come line and then
You're not playing the come on, man. Jesus Christ.
That was the whole thing.
No. You bet the numbers, you bet the pass line, you bet odds, max odds.
yeah. I was just kidding. The pass line and max odds. Basically, when Deeze was still learning, I was like, don't bother with anything else. Just play the pass line. Max odds the pass line. It's the best bet in the casino.
And I kept wanting to just do like Snake Eyes. Like I'm gonna.
Sure, of course.
And then like Jet, like she hit on one. Like she did like Snake Eyes, and like first time it just rolled Snake Eyes. I'm just like,
Yeah.
you can't ever bet that again.
What I like
you
about
just-
craps is like I feel like it's by far the most exciting thing to be doing in Vegas when everyone's winning.
Yeah.
It's the electricity at a table of craps
Bro.
when everyone's up like
Because you
10
win
grand.
together.
Yeah, because like for the most part, everyone's playing the same bets and you're all winning. And like when you fucking hit Snake Eyes like 4 times in a row and everyone's been betting it, it's just like total chaos.
Me and Tom went. He put me into the main event for my birthday like 2 years ago, and we went to play craps the night before. Obviously, and he's the guy's putting you in the main. He wants to play craps, you go fucking play. And we did bet them all. So like bet the smalls and bet the talls. And we made like 8 grand just like hitting them all. You hit every number 2 through 12 except for 7, which is pretty. You get paid like 150 to 1.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
odds.
pretty tough to do, man.
And
And
just
we
made it look easy.
yeah, like it's just like wild shit at craps.
I'm surprised you
that
didn't take down the main after. Like I think you were.
right? Well, no, we already burned the luck there, so like
Yeah.
of course we're gonna lose day 2.
Did you get superstitious like that? Like I do. Like when I get really lucky on something, like some people are like, "Oh, I know I have an edge," and I press it. And like sometimes I feel that, but most of the time I'm like,
A lot of people.
"Oh, I just
say-
got really lucky. I need to be like a little conservative here. I
yeah.
don't wanna
Like if
press
there's
my luck."
if there's like a crowd shouting at another craps table, we say like, "Oh yeah, we don't play," because all the good luck's there. Like no, you don't want to risk, you don't want to press it. No.
Yeah, there's like this superstitious.
Every good gambler is superstitious, I believe.
I mean, I'm like that with shit coins.
Yeah.
I hit a 2x. I sell half my bag. I'm like taking my free roll and I'm riding. I'm not like there's people who are like, I hit a 2x. I'm doubling down because it's gonna keep moving. I'm like, nope, half is off the table.
I do think that there's like a bit of like superstition that's like psyops risk management, where it's like
Sure.
you like you're thinking about it as far as superstition goes, but really what it is you're just managing your risk tolerance. And so it's like, oh, I'm feeling lucky or whatever, and like what you're actually saying is like I'm pretty comfortable taking more risk here. And like some people are not thinking about it that much, but like when I think about like daily fantasy sports or something, where it's like if I feel like I have an edge on a particular game or something, or like I really like a particular slate, like sometimes when I'm drafting I'll be like, oh, I just really like my drafts right now. Like I just feel really good about it.
Hammer
And
more.
like,
And yeah,
it's like
I think
it's
you're
like
a degenerate.
weird
Andy.
superstition. Oh, I 100%
I think
am.
you're a degenerate, buddy.
But I do think like a part of that is like risk tolerance, and then like when you win all of the main events for the daily fantasy thing, you go, okay, I'm gonna take some of that money and I'm gonna put my bank
of
account
course.
because
I'm not gonna like just leave it in my account to enter more contests.
yeah,
And then fucking the DFS site crashes, and they're like, "Oh, they were
Oh, Black
not
Friday.
liquid." Yeah.
Oh,
And that's over.
it's
I haven't had a DFS site Black Friday yet, thankfully.
Yeah, we haven't.
I feel like that would be too big of an issue.
Yeah, they're way more regulated than like a crypto.
They
exchange
had to be.
or
Yeah.
something.
They're like in every commercial.
Yes.
They're on every sport thing you watch. Like
Yeah.
the halftime show is sponsored by DraftKings. Like
It's
the
crazy how
toilet
much
bowl
gambling has
flush
taken over
is sponsored
sports.
by FanDuel. It's just like
It's not
everything has a moment to get Shield a chance to gamble.
Yes.
Like someone's shooting a free throw and there's like a fucking line under it that says you have 6 seconds to get this bet off. Will LeBron brick this?
Yeah.
And then it's showing like a live fucking betting line.
That's the future, but it's betting on yourself, so that's fine.
Did they
I think.
just show like a live
can't.
feed of like the guy whose car just got repoed because like he bet on LeBron making a free throw and like his rent money and his car payment? It's just fucking gone. Now he's outside and the guy has the boot on his car and he's just fucking towing it.
That's
He's like
hilarious.
on the hood, holding on to it, trying to make sure it doesn't leave. Like it's over.
Live by the sword, die by the sword. I mean, that's how it goes.
Like in my state, we can't even do underdog pick'ems, but I can go into a convenience store, hand them $10,000 cash, and get Mega Million entries randomized for me.
I mean,
And
yeah,
like that's
sure.
celebrated.
That's how it goes. That's just the law.
And
They
then like,
figured out how to like sneak in that industry.
yeah, it's a pain in the ass. We've been going for about 2 hours.
Yeah, should we?
You have any shout outs or any
I mean,
things you want to highlight? This will probably come out like maybe after you listen to it and review it and make sure you didn't say anything you shouldn't have said. It'll probably come out in like late June, July.
okay.
It's
I'll
gonna be a
have-
bit.
Let's see, my site will be out by then. I have like, if you want a good grief, so then by then you'll already know. Like, if you want a good grief, you'll have like a bunch of shit airdrop to you. I'm having
We
a
have a
site.
book.
You know, so I have a third book that'll be coming out like hopefully very soon after this comes out. Called "What's It Like Growing Up in Vegas," and it's 7-8 stories about just like, I mean, sharing locations with, you know, Zoomer and like one of my mom ODing outside a Jet nightclub. All kinds of like crazy stories about Vegas. People will love it. And then we're putting up a story on a site. I'm like starting Blockhead Studio, where it's like just all of my projects like broadening beyond Twitter. And so, you know, putting a bunch of stories up there, Gamble Responsibly with Tom and Icebags. Gambling with Icebags, watching him lose $250,000 is on there. And then I'm airdropping like mutuals, just like 250. So like everyone with a good grief gets one, or you can mint them for like some amount, not as much. Just like a sushi chef with like his cell phone, you know, like taking like DoorDash orders at a ghost kitchen. Just random like internet users with like AI art, like Mid-Journey shit we're doing. I'm doing a choose your own adventure where you meet like a CT mutual like in real life, and do you go to his, you know, like beach house in fucking Venice, or do you go to the bar? If you're at the bar, do you talk to the pretty woman at the bar? Oh shit, she's with the cartel. Do you help them? Do you, you know, like get killed? Do you just talk about his like crush, and do you bang her? Does he bang her? Does he kill her? Does she
You both
OD?
think- Yeah, it's
So it's like one of those. I added some art to that. So there's all kinds of like stuff at the site that people will like. Look, there's no real like writing NFTs. I of course think I'm the best writer and the only writer, but I need to take advantage of that. So I need to like provide. People
like-
are really like overestimating what they can do with words versus, you know, like someone doesn't just show up with a, you know, a camera and saying they're a photographer. So why do you think just because you know 26 letters that you're going to be a decent enough writer to, you know, have words carry your like professionalism, like what you need in your career? Like a lot of people, you know, like use prompts. Well, you better be a master with the words to know exactly what word you're looking for to convey that emotion. I don't know.
what's your favorite word?
I don't know. I have a favorite
Your
word.
favorite word?
I don't know.
Is this you're trying to get those slurs out now?
You're trying to get the slurs out. Yeah, you're trying to like, cancel me.
I didn't even know I was saying slurs.
Yeah,
Like
for context.
people are listening to this. Like, what, Deeze is saying slurs. I'm like, I watched a movie filmed by Guy Ritchie and learned a couple words.
It's been a tough week for Deeze.
I
It's
didn't
found
know
out that
that
he's a bit of
maybe
a
they
bigot.
would be like offensive. I was just saying them.
Oh, shout out my girlfriend. She puts up with me. She's the best. Finally found one. So
Shout out Texas.
shout out Texas. Texas is a great place.
Everything's
Has made
bigger in Texas.
Blockhead significantly more mellowed out.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten any, life is blowing up messages in a while.
Yeah. No.
The
It's
world
pretty
hasn't
good.
been on fire.
Yeah.
I haven't been kicked out of a Discord in a minute.
Yeah. I think everyone got shouted out. I got my projects.
Yeah.
Writing, feeling good.
It's good.
Shout out the size.
Shout out
team.
size.
Yeah,
All right.
Well, thank you for vibing.
Yeah,
with us.
thank
Thank
you.
you
It was
guys.
fun.
Yeah.